people think that, you know what, if I bug my case manager, my caseworker, I'm going to be bothering. But at the end of the day, don't play games with your healthcare. Never do that, because at the end of the day, your health is paramount. And if you put off or delay something, it could just progress and make your injury a lot worse.
Welcome to another episode of It's Settled, the Amitros podcast, where you'll hear authentic stories of overcoming adversity after a life-changing injury and how injury survivors, members, and industry experts are making a difference. I'm Andrea Mills, Chief Client Officer at Amitros.
And I'm John Kane, Senior Vice President of Strategy. If today's episode inspires you, please subscribe and leave a review to help inspire more listeners facing similar situations. Now, it's settled. Let's get on to the episode and explore the human side of workers' comp and insurance claims. Today we have a special guest, Jeremy Romero. He's a police officer that was seriously injured on the job. And here we're going to talk about his recovery, as well as some of the challenges that he's faced along the way, as well as his work with other individuals that were seriously disabled. Jeremy, if you could share some of your background as well as your interest in becoming a police officer.
Well, the interest in becoming a police officer really came early on as a child. As my father was a law enforcement officer and retired with over 30 years. I'm number 18 past and present in my family with law enforcement. And I just felt it was a great honor to follow in not only my dad's footsteps, but continue to the tradition of contributing and serving the community.
Well, we certainly appreciate you servicing the community. I wanted to ask you about the day of the accident. I know this is difficult to talk about, but if you can kind of discuss, what happened that day, the morning leading up to the injury.
Well, I mean, just like the mindset. I mean, I just went into work that evening. I was working a graveyard shift. Kissed my wife goodbye. At the time my son was 9 years old. Gave him a hug and a kiss, and told him that I'd have breakfast for him when I got out of work that morning, like I did every day before he went to school. Went into work. I mean, fairly quiet evening for me at work. Really nothing too spectacular going on. And within about 30 minutes of me getting out of work, I attempted to stop a motor vehicle for a traffic violation. I got behind the vehicle, activated my emergency equipment, proceeded to make a traffic stop on that vehicle. The vehicle then accelerated at a high rate of speed, driving on oncoming traffic pretty aggressively. Within about 30 seconds to a minute later, the vehicle came up on a sharp turn, subsequently crashed, brought up a bunch of dust on the roadway, in a sense, fogging up my vision, therefore causing me to crash my police car. Waking up quite a ways later on, it was pretty horrific for me. The first thing when I woke up, I really noticed my police radio pretty heavy, with heavy traffic, pretty going crazy as far as officers calling my name out and dispatch calling my name out. Looking around, I knew I had gotten a severe crash. Really couldn't open my left eye. I knew I had some really extensive injuries. I couldn't feel or move my legs. I was gasping for air. and really, in a sense, calling out for anybody to help me, because I knew really, I felt at that time, death was, I guess, the inevitable. But I was going to do everything in my power to fight everything I have to see my wife and son again. And that was when I noticed some individuals outside of my car, in a sense, running beside my car throughout the investigate with the investigation completed. It was then that I had found out that those people that were running away were actually the people that I was pursuing. It was pretty shocking for me, and I was then subsequently extricated from the vehicle, transported to University of New Mexico Hospital in Albuquerque, a level 1 trauma care center, and was in intensive care for approximately 2 weeks. Subsequently transported by air ambulance to Craig Hospital in Inglewood, Colorado, for an additional 2 months of rehabilitation. And throughout that process, while I was at University of New Mexico Hospital, early on, I didn't remember too much, but the thing that really stood out to me is when doctors were brought in along with my wife and my family, and told me that I sustained a T12 L1 burst fracture, and the likelihood that I was ever going to walk again was approximately 5%. And that was really when, in a sense, my heart was torn out of my chest, and the panic set in. And then when I got to Craig Hospital in Inglewood, Colorado, it was pretty devastating for me. It was just me and my wife at the time. We really didn't have no, obviously, support, because we were out of state, and really the unknown actually set in. And it was really a tough couple of months for my wife and I to really come to the realization what was going on real time with my injury. But the hardest part was, what was the future going to hold for myself and the family as a whole. And that was pretty heartbreaking for me.
Yeah. It's significant, change of life. And I'm sure, mentally it was difficult, on you. If you could, talk about your mental state, if you could, for a minute.
The mental state for me was really tough. I really wanted to give up on life. The reality of it is the hearing and seeing different instances where throughout my life, where you see on news stories and hear of people committing suicide and really giving up on life. And really, when I was faced with that numerous times, the mental health aspect, I believe, was really huge early on in my injury. But I think the hardest part for me for mental health was uh, really the delays in healthcare for me, and which that obviously progressed and made my injuries, the different injuries that I had, made it a lot worse, and really deteriorated not only my mind, but really was more uh, bothersome and hurtful to actually the people that loved and cared for me, which was my family. And it was real frustrating for them, seeing the really lengthy delays on my adequate health care. I mean, no one ever wants to obviously get an injury like I have, where it's life changing. But as a public servant for as long as I was, you have that mindset you're going to get injured on the job, and you're going to be taken care of for the rest of your life, and you have nothing to worry about. That's kind of the mindset, but the reality, it's the exact opposite.
Did you have any advocates that were working with you to try and get through some of these challenges?
Early on, I mean, it was really, in a sense, like the honeymoon stage, right? I mean, everything was at the onset of my injury. I had the support, I had the care early on from law enforcement officers, and initially from from my work, and then obviously the initial phase from my insurance, my workman's comp insurance. And I believe that was in large part due to really all the media attention that I was getting. Within 6 months, all that really faded away, and the support that I had was really just uh, the core of it was my wife. That's never left my side, but my immediate family, even the support of law enforcement officers, they were there, but I mean, it began to really dwindle away for me, and that really, in a sense, too, was a diminishing factor on my mindset as well, as far as any type of hope and trying to even get back to a law enforcement career moving forward. It was pretty hard.
Yeah, there's definitely, several challenges that you've had to face along the way. And I'm sure, looking at the future and better days, it took some time for you.
Oh
Have
yeah, definitely.
I think last time we spoke, you were heading to a concert, I think.
Yes. I mean, that's been really a big part for me now that I'm really in a sense retired. But I mean, within this past couple of months, I had my ninth, I believe my 19th surgery on my neck, and are starting to recover from that, and really starting to try to enjoy life the best that I can. I mean, every day is, I believe, is a gift that I get. Really fortunate to wake up, and I'm going to make not only the most of it for my wife, my family, and then also a large part for me, which is obviously the disabled community, injured workers throughout the United States. That's really moved at the forefront for me to be the biggest advocate that I can. I don't want anybody to ever be in my shoes. If I can advocate and help as many people as I can, that's what I'm going to do. And I feel that's where my ultimate goal in life is, just to help as much people as I can have a comfortable life with the cards and the life that they're dealt with.
Yeah, you're extremely strong coming out of the injury, and the impact to family. In terms of your work as a police officer, how did the injury impact um, your service with the police community?
Uh, uh, Early on, for the first couple of years, in a sense, I really gave up on myself. Um, I I gave up on really law enforcement, and my mindset was like, how can I come back or contribute to something that really almost killed me and took my life? I mean, it was really tough. I mean, after a couple of years of really trying to just focus on my rehabilitation, trying to recover as the best way I could, and I just came to the realization that, you know what, law enforcement still needs me, and I need law enforcement, and I think I'm still, even though my legs weren't working, I still could be a really contribute in different ways to law enforcement, and that's when I decided to get back into law enforcement, uh, really on the administrative side for the first couple of years after uh, really trying to recover from my injury, and that's when I was given the opportunity uh, to really serve in a high level law enforcement capacity, which I was appointed by the governor of the state of New Mexico to be the public safety advisor for law enforcement in the state of New Mexico, and work directly for the governor and out of the governor's office, which I was able to work for approximately 4 years. And after those 4 years, I was fortunate enough and able enough to retire with almost 25 years in public service, which I'm very, very grateful, not only to the governor for looking past my disability but also just being fortunate enough that I was able to retire in the position that I was, and not only able to retire, but really contribute for 4 effective years with New Mexico law enforcement throughout the state of New Mexico.
Well, we certainly appreciate your service. I know that Andrea's got some questions.
Yeah, Jeremy, how many years ago was the accident?
The accident was January 21st of 2014. So
Wow.
pretty much in a sense, 10 years.
Yeah, so over those 10 years, you mentioned you went to Craig. I imagine you've been through extensive rehab and things like that. What was the kind of mindset of, getting out of bed every day to, get to the point where you could, go back to work and take care of yourself?
Really, the mindset and the taking care of myself, it was really a roller coaster, and in a sense it still is a roller coaster, even where I'm at right now in this stage. I mean, it's just full of ups and downs still, but I mean, it's the hardest part was uh when I wanted to give up every day. The hardest part was having my son and my wife come to the bed and really offer that support, and really just giving me that support not to give up, and through all those bad days, wiping my tears away, just really the struggles, and really the uncertainty of my mindset was really the game changer for me, as far as uh, my son and my wife were never going to give up on me, and I wasn't about to give up on them through all those hard and bad days. And that was probably the hardest part for me.
Yeah, and I know, you have some modifications, to your car and I'm sure to your home, and you've been using the exoskeleton and things like that. How do you feel like, those changes or accommodations that have been made to those things, like how do you think that has helped, your recovery journey?
It's huge. It's not only been huge, but it's really, in a sense, grateful for the technology, how it's evolved,
Mhm.
uh, as far as being in my position, being a paraplegic. You can look back 20, 30 years, and to see how much uh, uh, technology's evolved, and I just feel very, very grateful. But with that the exoskeleton, and for an example, my modified van and stuff like that, that didn't come without a fight, and really not only a fight, but it was a continued knockdown, drag out fight for a number of years, with my workman's comp, with fighting, really in a sense, fighting the system, and it was is really a struggle.
Yeah, Jeremy, that gets to self advocacy and, you speaking up for, what your needs are. Are there any other examples? I mean, you talked about the honeymoon period where, I'm sure they were paying 110% attention to you. And then, when it came to a point where, you were getting out of the bed and you were able to, at least move around a bit. Were there any other examples of where you had to advocate for yourself?
Really, the advocating was really strenuous. I mean, I had to really was forced when I started seeing delays in my care, started getting collections and different things that was going on. It became really overwhelming, not only for myself and my family, because my focus and my family's uh, primary focus was obviously adequate and timely health care. So anything that I was facing wouldn't progress and get worse. That's when I was really forced, in a sense, to get an attorney to advocate for me. And that took, I mean, pretty close to 5 years of advocating and fighting. During that time, a simple x-ray could take an approval for anywhere from 1 to 3 months. For an example, I actually fell in the shower and broke my femur bone. I waited an entire weekend with a broken femur bone until I could actually get approval from my insurance that following Monday. So I really, in a sense, wouldn't get into trouble as far as them not covering my health care. And that's it's pretty scary when really that mindset is instilled to you by your insurance company. And yet again, that's just another yet clear-cut example of really the stress, the mental health, all that culminates into one thing where you just really, in a sense, want to give up on life.
And I know you've taken it one day at a time, and there's certainly better days ahead. You had mentioned the exoskeleton, and I believe you were the first police officer to receive the exoskeleton. If you could kind of talk through how that works.
So, I mean, initially, how the process began with the Rewalk exoskeleton. I mean, it began when I was at Craig Hospital. I mean, early on, not only every paraplegic, every quadriplegic, people in my shoes, the first thing that they want is obviously to walk again, right? And look at everything that's out there as far as technology. And I was one of those people, and I came across the exoskeleton Rewalk, which it was in its actually early stages, and I believe just prior that it actually got approved in the United States for usage, and the price tag was really, really high. I believe over $100,000 at that time. And that's when I began not only really doing some extensive research, but advocating for myself, giving that to my nurse case manager at the time. And initially it was a no. That's when I really didn't want to take no for an answer, and really looking at all the possibilities that this exoskeleton could do, not only for my mindset but my overall health. And that's when I began the contact with Rewalk. And a short time later, when I got back home from Craig Hospital in Inglewood, my nurse case manager at the time really did some great advocating, and I was able to get approved for do a test trial of the Rewalk exoskeleton at Tier Memorial Hermann Hospital in Houston, Texas. That was really a great moment, and obviously my healthcare, my mindset. I was able to actually do a trial testing of the exoskeleton. Rewalk, the nurses at Tier Memorial Hermann, and the healthcare officials deemed that I would be a perfect fit for the exoskeleton. Came back home and continued to advocate, and a lot of blood, sweat, and tears came to fruition, and my insurance actually approved the purchase of the exoskeleton. And I went back to Houston a couple of months later, and with a month of extensive training with the exoskeleton, along with my wife, I was able to bring the device home and use the device at home with my wife, anywhere from 1 to 3 miles a day. That was really huge for me because I had a lot of bowel and bladder problems, a lot of pressure sores. I really couldn't control my heart rate. I had high blood pressure, a lot of things that really sitting all day in a wheelchair really can do a lot of bad things for you. But when I started getting up and really walking again with the assistance of the exoskeleton, that really decreased a lot of the issues that I was going through, and really had my mindset brand new again, as far as, my life isn't over, and I can still contribute, and I can be healthy, not only for myself, but healthy and live a long life and a joyous life for my family.
Yeah, I'm sure, those first few steps, you're probably thinking about, your independence, and
Yeah, and really the first few steps, the first thing that I thought of was when I took my first few steps is, I don't know if you remember the movie Robocop. That was the first thing that came to my mind, and actually the people that were there walking with me, I was thinking it, and when one of the technicians at Tier Memorial Herman actually mentioned it and says, you know what, hey, you could be the first RoboCop in the United States, and it got a chuckle out of me. But you know what, it was really kind of, I guess, surreal that how a movie from the '90s really evolved to where it is now, and in a sense, kind of that exoskeleton was really the technology back then, and fast forward to today, and it was really alive, live, and really working.
Yeah, we appreciate you sharing that. Thank you.
Jeremy, we were on a podcast called It's Settled, and clearly you got to a position where you settled your workers' comp case. And it sounds like you've done a ton of advocacy. And I know in our previous conversations, you talked about how, you settled your case without an attorney, which I think is pretty unique given the extent of your injuries and how extensive, the settlement probably was. And you are a CareGuard member of ours on our platform. And, would love to hear a little bit about your settlement journey, and then, using CareGuard and how that's been for you, through this time.
Really, I mean, that settlement journey, I mean, it was tough. I mean, it took everything, not only from myself but my family that we had, and really just the ups and downs, and really the lack of, I guess, really the laws. I believe, I mean, I can only speak for New Mexico, but really they're not there really as far as advocacy for really the injured worker, and really the mindset that I had was, from my employer and from my insurers, it was more of a business aspect. They were doing everything that they could to save money. They would get fined through the judge, and really my attorney's hands were tied. And that's when I felt, you know what, if I'm going to fight, I'm going to do everything I can to fight for myself. And that's when I released my attorney, and really doing at that point, some really aggressive advocating for myself. And really, I wasn't gonna take no for an answer, maybe because at the end of the day, I was fighting for my life. I mean, that's my mindset. And being a police officer, we have that warrior mentality, and that warrior mentality was, we're gonna go home every night at the end of shift, and that's kind of bled over to not only advocating for myself but the recovery. And it took a lot of strength, and really endurance. I mean, because any workman's comp claim, any type of work injury, it's more of a marathon. I mean, that's kind of what it was for me. And at the end of it, I was going to be the winner, and I was going to be victorious at the end of that marathon, and I was able to do it. And I feel pretty good about it.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like I don't know if it's being the police officer background, or, as you mentioned, that warrior mindset, but we don't see that as often, where people are taking the reins of their care or taking the reins of their settlement. And so, I think it's really, really cool that you were able to do your own research and figure these things out and advocate for yourself. I'm thoroughly impressed with that, for sure. And, I know that as a CareGuard member, we often speak about how that is freeing outside of the workers' comp system. You are able to take the reins of your own healthcare, and that's one of the benefits of our program. How have you felt like that has helped you in this journey?
Well, I mean, through the journey, like like I mentioned before, I mean, it's been a roller coaster through ups and downs. But I would venture to say, outside, I mean, I've had some really good highlights. I mean, my rewalk, and able to get back to work. But for me, which is, I believe, the shining star for me, and really has took the burden off me has been CareGuard through this whole all these many surgeries and everything. I mean, and for me, it's really the convenience, the efficiency of really accessing timely treatments that have not only eased my worries, but also have allowed me to prioritize my health care and my happiness. I mean, really through Amatros, I've been empowered to take control of my well-being and make informed decisions more for my healthcare and my future, which is all in part due to Amatros and CareGuard, really taking that stress off of me and my family.
Yeah, it's so important to hear, you say that as well. I go to work every day because we're here to really help the injured folks after they've settled their claim, and we really want to make sure that we're doing a great job. And so I'm proud to hear that it's been working for you, and it's something that's helped give back some freedom in your healthcare journey. So that's super important, for us to make sure that we're keeping that at the forefront of our minds every day. And I know that you also, it's important for you to give back. Can you speak about some of the work that you're doing with other injured police officers or injured people throughout the states?
So, really for me, I mean, it all started obviously early on too, is obviously really looking out different things. I mean, obviously on the internet and things like that, as far as how can I help? How can I help not only my local people in the state, which early on was the media support was huge. Rewalk, when I started using Rewalk, they were a big advocate, obviously putting my name out there to different injured workers, and obviously me researching different people different injured workers throughout the different states, and I was able to reach out to different injured police officers and injured workers. Hey, you know what? Let them know that, you know what, this is working for me. This didn't work for me, and really, how can we be a support for each other, and really opening that dialogue and that communication, which obviously spread pretty heavily, and going through different law enforcement conferences, going through different workman's comp conferences. That was huge for me, and really that opened the doors as far as me assisting people, throughout all 50 states, and that was really huge. And the highlight is obviously being able to actually make contact with people that are paralyzed, and actually putting them in an exoskeleton and allowing them to really walk again and feel the way that I felt, which is huge and life changing.
Yeah, and I'm not as familiar with the factors that go into who's a good candidate for an exoskeleton. And I know you mentioned that you did some testing and they thought that you were a good candidate. Can you share a little bit about what maybe a good candidate for an exoskeleton looks like?
So I mean, a really ideal candidate. I mean, I believe the threshold is up to, I believe, 6'1", and there's some certain weight limits on there, and also you have to have really good usage with your upper body strength. So they'll obviously check your balance, your arms, your hands, and stuff like that, because when you're walking with the Rewalk, you're walking with crutches as well to obviously stabilize you. And then with that, you also have to have somebody that's trained to walk beside you in case something happens, you fall or anything like that, which in my part was my wife. And there's certain people that obviously do not meet that type of threshold as far as obviously being a paraplegic. I mean, some may be a quadriplegic, so then therefore they won't qualify. Some individuals may not have a spouse or a companion that would be able to train with them for that extensive amount of time. So there's a lot of factors in that, but obviously I was able to meet all those qualifications, and then obviously get fitted for the device.
Gotcha. And I know you had shared with us that you spent 4 years in that safety role and that now you're retired. So what's kind of the outlook for your retirement? What do you want to do after retirement?
Really just obviously my priority is to continue to do some advocating not only here in the state of New Mexico, but wherever I'm needed. And then really just to really try and enjoy what time I have left on this earth, and really just look at, really focusing on my wife, my son, my family overall, and really some spending some quality time with them, because it's been a rough ride. I mean, it's been a rough 10 years. I mean, full of ups and downs, trials and tribulations, and I'm just really want to get the time back that I feel that I lost with my family.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
Jeremy, in terms of, the listeners, what would you say is the most important thing in terms of, what your experience, your advocacy, what's the most important messaging that you would like to hear other injured individuals hear from this episode?
But I mean, being a paraplegic, quadriplegic, or really suffering a devastating injury, really for me is, in moments of doubt, uncertainty, remember to be kind to yourself. I mean, that's huge. Embrace the ups and downs with courage and resilience. For each obstacle you overcome, it only makes you stronger. It made me stronger. Also, trust the process, trust yourself, and believe in an imminent strength within you. And ultimately, you got to rise above adversity, because at the end of the day, we're all going to face adversity. An able-bodied person like yourself, or a disabled person like me, we're all going to face some type of adversity, and really just take a moment to reflect on your journey. I mean, it really affect on your journey, and you can get through it.
Well, we really appreciate the time. Andrea, do you have any other questions?
I just want to make sure, Jeremy, that we, asked you what you wanted to share. If there's anything else that we didn't ask that maybe you would like either a claims handler to know, or an injured person, or really anybody out there facing adversity, or working with those who are facing adversity, that you would like them to hear.
Really, it's just really the obviously the injured worker, or just anyone really injured in general. It's really tough to really obviously focus on your injury, and then focus on the as far as the medical care, in your timely care. But the really insight that I've learned is, really you have to be engaged and really stay involved, and stay in the know. And really, people think that, what, if I bug my case manager, my caseworker, I'm going to be bothering. But at the end of the day, don't play games with your healthcare. Never do that, because at the end of the day, your health is paramount, and if you put off or delay something, it could just progress and make your injury a lot worse, and turn into something bigger that really, in a sense, the injured worker doesn't need.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that, and kudos to your wife and son too, who've helped you through this journey. Hopefully we get to meet them someday.
Oh yeah, definitely will. And I can thank everyone at CareGuard Amatros for really the support, and really looking past I guess the business aspect, and looking more towards the individual, and putting that individual's healthcare, paramount, and which is huge for me.
Well, Jeremy, we really appreciate the time, and you are probably the first superhero that I've met, and I appreciate you sharing your experience, your journey, and definitely wish you continued better days ahead. So,
oh yeah, I'm going to continue to have better days. And all in part thanks to you guys. You guys make everything worth living, and really, not only I say thank you, but my family says thank you to you guys as well.
Awesome.
Thank you.
And hopefully the listeners will share this episode with others, and listen to your advice, and really appreciate your time, Jeremy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to It's Settled, the Amatros podcast. Find us on major streaming platforms like Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Your review means a lot to us. It helps us share these inspiring stories with more listeners. For more information about Amatros, please visit our website at amatros.com. That's AMETROS.com.
And a big shout out to our amazing guests for sharing their experiences, and to our dedicated podcast producer, Melanie Samaran. Join us in our next episode for more uplifting stories. It's settled. On to the next time. Stay inspired and continue making positive impact.